Welcome to the Disability Myth, the podcast where we explore the realities of disability with handsomeness, humility, and hamminess. My name's Dominic, and I was born with a fatal neuromuscular condition called spinal muscular atrophy. My co-host, Uriel, and I tackle serious issues, but we don't take ourselves too seriously.
SMA and boats. How did that go?
SMA and boats?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, boats are just not as wheelchairs. We're here to share stories, break down barriers, and remind everyone that we're not so different. So hit subscribe and let's shed light on some myths. Well, hello there.
Hello.
And welcome back to another episode of The Disability Myth. I am, of course, your handsome, your humble, your hammy host, Dominic Trevathan, and alongside me, as always, the equally handsome, humble, and hammy, Uriel. What's up, bro? How you doing?
Hi. There's a new remote here.
Yeah,
You got a new chair.
got a new wheelchair.
That's
It
cool.
took a quick, well, not quick. It took a few days to get adjusted to it, and
About 3 weeks?
3 weeks. No,
No.
like
Oh,
a week maybe.
I guess I wasn't expecting Greg to come like in such quick succession, right?
Yeah, because my
'Cause he
mechanic
came that one
came out
Monday.
and worked on it a couple days
Yeah.
during the week. So,
Mhm.
anyways, new chair, adjusted to it finally. This one has my monitor on that side, whereas before it was over here. So now I have nothing
Yeah.
to rest my hand on, unfortunately,
A custom
except
request.
for my joystick. But it works out. And
Okay.
so yeah, we are excited today to be talking with Josué Medrano, a counselor who lives with cerebral palsy. So welcome on, Josué.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
And I
good.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're excited to have you, man. Uh, I found you through a relative, and it just kind of worked out that we got each other's contact, and glad I did because I think this type of episode has a lot of potential to teach younger people that have aspirations of getting into healthcare, whether that be on the psychology side or not. Just give them a resource, you know? And so that's what I'm excited for this episode specifically. And yeah, so with that being said, let's jump into the icebreakers. For those that may be just watching for the first time, our icebreakers are kind of just silly, goofy, off-topic little questions that we like to ask our guests to get to know them. And our first one we would like to ask is, what is the most adventurous thing you've ever done, Josue?
I've done a lot of interest things, a lot of traveling, so it's hard to pinpoint, one thing specifically. I would say that the first major adventure I took, without family, I did a summer abroad with other classmates from UC Berkeley. We went to Brazil. I was there for a month, and that was pretty cool. Like I said, that's adventurous because it was my first time so far away without family helping me out. I got one of the professors in the program got me in contact with someone who worked as like my helper. So I had somebody assist me the whole trip, and I was in two cities. I was in the city of Salvador, Bahia, and that's central eastern on the coast of Brazil. And then after that, we went to Rio de Janeiro, and we were there for 1 week. So 3 weeks, sorry, 3 weeks Salvador and 1 week in Rio. And he also flew with us down there, so he was there the whole time with me. And yeah, that was pretty adventurous.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's why I love this podcast. Like we
Uh-huh.
talk to so many people that are in very similar, situations or circumstances regarding their physical limitations, but I feel like everybody has gone somewhere, done something super cool, except for me. I just like to live vicariously
That's
through our
not
guests.
true. You gotta give yourself more credit than
No.
that, buddy.
No, that's just
Yeah.
something I always wanted to do, that I never did was travel abroad when like I was at UCLA, but I just, never bothered.
No. It's okay. I mean, it is hard. It's not easy, and um, I've gone a little bit quiet in that realm in terms of adventuring by traveling. Hopefully, I get to pick that up soon again. And I'm actually not done with my PhD. I'm not a holder of it yet. Almost. I'll be defending my proposal hopefully next month. And
That's exciting.
thank you. Once I get past that, then hopefully I'll just do my research and then get that writing and then I'll get it done. So hopefully by the end of maybe the summer or early fall, I'll be done with it, hopefully.
If you don't mind me coming up with a question on the spot here, what's that like writing a proposal for your PhD?
Well, like this whole past term, I've been basically coming up with a PowerPoint, and this is the worst PowerPoint I've ever come up with because it's it's basically I have to just give an outline of what I'm gonna write about, and I have to go back, and my professor told me no, change this, change that, and like I've realized like they didn't really read what I wrote because there's changes they should have told me a while ago that I'm barely making now, and like so it's a big headache doing a doctorate. It's a very big headache. It's people say, well, oh, well, yeah, well, no wonder. Well, you're in it, you're doing it. I'm like, yeah, but it's still not. It's not what I expected. It's not so much. It's like hard to write. It's just like it's just I think the whole back and forth of your professors and different professors looking at it and like they're not on the same page and like not communicating exactly what you need to change or changing it one way and then later on changing something else. It's like that's the headache part.
Yeah, and I believe the professor is kind of like a mentor or a guide, in like to like help you like do it. I forget how it's done. Usually, you have like some sort of like person that oversees.
A dissertation chair. Yeah.
Yeah, and then who are you pitching it to?
Well, the faculty, I think there's, three staff. I think three different staff that will probably, review, when I present. And ultimately, it's my chair, right? My chair is the one guiding me the whole time. But she's reviewing it as I go along. But I also, in my program, we're required to send it like to the writing center, and the writing center reviews it and tells you what to correct based on grammar and spelling. And another one reviews it based on reviewing it on content. And then also my chair, she looks at content. And then yeah, it's just a lot. And
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a huge headache. And I have been in this program too long. I've been in the program for 8.5 years. And so I should have been done with this a long time ago. And that's what upsets me about like higher education, especially doctorates, is like they say, oh, this is a 3-year program. And no, it's not a 3-year program. It's like if you're perfect without any obstacles or everything that's going to happen, then yeah, maybe you can do it in 3 years. But even so, that's not even the correct time frame. It takes a lot longer.
Oh yeah, Dominic knows. That's my gripe with like education. It's like they say 3, 4 years, but like family emergencies, this, that, mental health. Sometimes you gotta like take a semester off. You never know what happens. Yeah, it's crazy. But that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know very little about PhD programs, but like I know like in some fields it's like not only getting all this, but getting the funding and pitching it to the right people, like a bunch of like craziness and like all that stuff has always like intrigued me.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, I would probably, I don't know if I would go back and like not do it, but now that I'm in it, like, that's what I say, like, I'm a minute now, I gotta finish it, I had to actually ask, I used up all my extensions, so I had to ask for a policy exception. So I got more extensions. So I got about a year and a half to finish. So that's when my chair is not too much under pressure right now, but yeah, hopefully if everything goes right, I should finish by the end of summer, maybe early fall. Hopefully, with no more hiccups. But I have like about a year and a half left to finish.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
Best of luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Fingers
cool.
typing in this
Fingers
case.
typing.
Yeah, fingers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, speaking of
Yeah.
that, so you're multilingual. So are you writing
Yeah.
your paper in English or any
It's
other
English.
several languages you speak?
No, English. I probably need to correct more of my other languages, but yeah, it's in English.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
thank
just
you.
so we kind of briefly mentioned it before recording. What languages do you all speak, and how would you say you've learned to speak them as well as you do?
Yeah. Well, I know Spanish because my family is Spanish speaking, so I grew up speaking Spanish at home, and obviously English in all my education. I know some people, especially I think very popular in a lot of Latin concentrated states, like here in California. There's English immersion classes where they have Spanish speakers and teachers speaking Spanish, and then also in English. But I was not part of that. All my education was in English. So I just grew up, I think I have a good ear. That's why I think I picked up on languages. And just Spanish at home, and I in high school took Spanish for Spanish speakers and like AP Spanish Lit. Um, but yeah, I just had curiosity of learning more languages, and so I picked up a couple Portuguese classes in college when I was at UC Berkeley, and like I mentioned earlier, my travel to Brazil, and I then later on, after done with my bachelor's, I want to learn Italian, and so I pick up some Italian classes. There is a local Italian speaking group, which actually the professor who works at the local college, he actually runs those groups, and he's retired now, but he still runs those monthly groups. I don't go to those anymore because I'm really busy. But we practice my Italian in that scenario too, and besides the classes that I took. And Hebrew, just picking it up, I had some Hebrew classes, and I can read it. I can pronounce it. Like I don't know everything I read because I'm not like that advanced, but I think it's pretty cool because that's my current pride because Hebrew, along with other Eastern languages like Japanese or Chinese or Arabic, they're completely different than the Latin-based or Greek-based languages, and read from right to left, and in Hebrew the words can be arranged any way. They don't have to be arranged like a certain way, kind of like an old Latin, right? Latin and the classical Latin, they can be arranged basically any way, and just depending on how the word is spelled, and you can understand what it means. It doesn't have to be, spelled perfectly like it is in English, right? From left to right.
Okay.
Like, it can be arranged in various orders. Hebrew too, it can be arranged in various orders, and you can pick up what it's trying to say. But yeah, you read from right to left, and the cover is from the right and then to the left. So it's interesting. So now I feel confident. Maybe one day I can learn Japanese.
Heck yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so
Mhm.
jealous. Imagine being able to read Berserk or like other mangas in actual Japanese.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
cool. I encourage
that'd
it,
be
man.
cool.
If you really have that aspiration, I think you should go for it.
Yeah, I know. I like the attitude. Yeah, because it's like I don't know. There's something so beautiful about trying like learning another language and involving yourself in other cultures.
Yeah,
And it's like one of those. And I tell people that are trying to learn Spanish, I'm a little offended when you don't try. I'm a little offended when you don't try because you're afraid of messing up because also you're never gonna learn.
right.
You know what I mean? It's just like I'm not gonna bully. I'm not gonna like tell you like, oh, you're saying it wrong. This is what matters is that they're trying, and
Yeah.
it's pretty respectful. I'm like, okay, they're going for it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You gotta try. Maybe even if you mess up, you can always correct yourself later.
yeah. It's just yeah, it's like people like that. Don't listen to the assholes. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, shut up. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah, you learn by doing.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. If you could go back in time and give a piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Um, I don't know. When we're young, we're naive, and sometimes we have to learn by experience. Sometimes things happen, you know, um, that we just can't predict everything that happens. So I don't know. I don't know what I could say to myself. Like I said, I was mentioning, kind of alluding to earlier, like, oh, I don't know if I would have been in this program. I was originally in a clinical psychology program, and I got two C's in two classes. And for a doctor program, you can't get C's.
Mhm.
You have to get B's or above. You can't get C's. C's or D's in a doctor program, in a graduate program too, any graduate program, I believe. And so, my program brought to my attention. I was living in Virginia, by the way. Besides all my travel that I've done, I lived in Virginia for 3 years. That's when I went to go start my clinical psychology program. But like I said, I got two C's. My program brought it to my attention. Hey, what do you want to do? Because if you continue, you're going to be in a program for another year. You can't be in the clinic this year until the following year, assuming you pass your classes. And so I had to make a choice. And then one of my professors, who was my academic mentor, he told me, he wasn't, I don't think he was in cahoots with the other professors, but he did suggest, hey, you know what, you might want to consider the counseling program we have too, because, you're basically do the same thing that almost same thing that psychologists do, similar training, the education is not quite as extensive. The pay, in many cases will be, relatively, similar. So that might be better for you. And I listened to that advice, and I switched to counseling at that moment. So I was in Virginia for another 2 years, so a total of 3 years, and a lot of my credit transferred over. And yeah, I think that was a good choice. But like I said, I'm not sure if I maybe could have stayed, because they couldn't kick me out, because they were damned if they do, they're damned if they didn't. They didn't want to
Yeah.
they didn't want to let me go because that looks bad, but they didn't want to also hold on to me because, like, what if I fail, right? There's that risk of, okay, well, if he fails again, that's not looking good on us because we let him in the program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a tough choice. I don't know. You can't predict everything, but I made the choice of switching to counseling, and maybe that's why I'm in a doctorate program right now because I wanted to get a doctorate. So that's why I'm like, I didn't get to do that. I chose not to do that, right? I could have stayed, but I chose not to stay in that program. I didn't want to go through the burden of being another year in that program. So I finished my counseling degree, right on time, fast track, because I was only there for 2 years and more. But I want to continue that dream of getting a doctor. So that's why I chose to enroll in a doctorate program when I came back here to my home.
Gotcha.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good. I appreciate the honesty and like the what's the word? Yeah, the honesty and
Just
the
the
real response.
openness.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
openness. Yeah, because it's like for some people that are like never done like an upper division like courses or gone through programs like that. Like I would have not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of like this the C's or D's thing. I never.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like undergraduate when D's get you by, but no, C's are D's in graduate work.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Also like the politics and like the discussing like oh all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff like oh like
The
completely
the
like
bureaucracies everywhere. And when I get to one of the team professors, they called me in the office to address all this. So my C's I got from the same professor, right? So I got two C's
Mm.
from the same professor. So that's a little, suspicious, right? Like what's going on? Why was it that professor? Why was it different? So she was part of that team. So I'm like, they probably thought I was gonna, attack them and stuff like that. That probably
Um,
ready to like defend themselves. Could have, but I was already old by that time. I was in a program. I was already. I'm 41 right now, and so I was 31 when I had to make that choice. And yeah, I could I should have I could have said, what, well, I got two C's by the same professor. Why? That's a little strange. That's the same professor gave me a C. You know. So I didn't fight it out. I should have. I should have. That's what I regret. Maybe I should have. Hey, would have put a bit more pressure on them and like thought about like, hey, well, if I do want to stay in the program, but if I do stay in the program, how are you guys going to help me? Get past this hurdle of these two classes that I got a C in, right?
yeah.
Because I don't want to get a C again in these two classes. And so maybe, like I said, that's something I regret. Maybe if I would have, worked that out a little bit more and stayed in the program, maybe things would have been different. And I could have had my clinical psychology doctorate degree by now, but I didn't do that. So that's on me. That's my bad. I switched to counseling, and now I'm in this doctorate program called international psychology.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No. I that's just wild. I never would have thought there's so much politics involved.
Yeah, and
Eh,
Oh yeah.
it sounds kind of cutthroaty too. It's just
Yeah.
like if you can't cut it, they like figure out like ways that just like it's like
Mhm.
whatever it takes to make them look good.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah, damn, all right,
Yeah,
like
because I left on my own reconnaissance, right? They didn't kick me out, and I didn't fail. So I chose to switch programs, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not sure if other professors was in cahoots with them because when I met these other professors, it was three of them, and the other one, my academic mentor, he was not part of that meeting. So it'd be a little bit dark if like he met with them earlier and like he would bring us up aside from me because that's what he did. I don't know, but it was still good for him to mention that, and I think it was a good choice. And I like what I do. I like what I do as a counselor. I'm a licensed professional
Yeah.
clinical counselor.
yeah, what matters is like you gotta make do with what you got, like make the best out of it,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like you're still rocking it, like you still had like that aspiration for the PhD. You said, screw it, let's do it. You're in the
Mm-hmm.
doctorate program, let's go. You know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
respect for that,
Like you said,
you
just
know.
good attitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll circle back to the academic stuff, but for now, I want to take a second and just kind of ask you some questions regarding your disability. Um,
Sure.
Something that we kind of tend to ask all of our guests when they come on
Mm-hmm.
is, what are the common misconceptions that you think others may have about you or your disability, and how do you kind of react or navigate to those misconceptions?
Um, I don't know. I mean, it could be various things. Like if we're talking about like right now, like in my work, maybe it's maybe it has nothing to do with my disability, but it's me as a since I have a different kind of I work in a setting with different employees. So I'm employed by somebody, they're employed by somebody else. So it's not it doesn't mesh well. And when but that might be because of that circumstance, not necessarily a disability. So I'm not quite sure if my disability has anything to do with it. But I think a common theme, I think that I'm reading at stuff and just research that I've done is like people assume people with disabilities don't have any emotional, social needs or even sexual needs, things like that. So I think that's the biggest misconception, right? You're
Yeah.
disabled, so you don't have the basic needs that regular people have, but we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I know Dominic and I talk about it like all the time. It's just like a very ableist society, and people don't think about it, just like very individualistic. Um, yeah, well, America is very
Yeah.
individualistic, and people just, and a majority of people are able-bodied. So it's just like me, 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 and it's like they just kind of like only focus on themselves, and they fail to forget that like other people also have those similar needs or wants, and it's like,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a little dehumanizing at times, and it's a little crazy.
And
That kind
Yeah.
just to add on to that too, it's something that I think is especially taboo on social media and the internet as well, in my experience.
yeah.
You see very seldom disabled content creators that are pushing, you know, content around those needs. Like I can think of one disabled, what is it, OnlyFans content creator?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just like I feel like there's a kind of hole in social media, a void, if you will,
Yeah.
for content like that.
Yeah, and it's like I
Yeah.
wonder how much of that is like this like the stench of ableism where it's kind of like you see OnlyFans shenanigans across like social media all the time, but like when it's disabled people, it becomes almost more taboo
Yeah.
than just regular OnlyFans, and like
Yeah.
that's a little wild.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing. What I try to do is to if people offer their help, I try to accept it when I can or when as much as I can. And if I don't accept it, I try to be nice and be thankful if someone wants to help me out. Because I don't know, maybe the next person does need the help, and I want to make that person feel comfortable that somebody else after me might need that help more than I do, So,
Yeah.
I try to, I don't think I'm really rude. I've never been really rude. I try not to be. I can't say I ever was, but I can't. I try to make my best effort to be thankful and be nice to those who offer help.
Yeah.
Kids do that all the time. I like when kids do that, they offer their help, and that's so awesome, because they see that they need, the need that a person has. And I try to make that so they can see that people do have needs, and it's good to help others. Um, because some people don't want it, but that's okay. But when I don't want it, I just try to let them rest assured that their thought matter to me.
Yeah. I like that. That's cool.
Hmm.
This reminds me too of a conversation we had with our friend Victor on last season. And Victor has one arm only, like he was born without one of his arms. He's a
Hmm.
congenital amputee. And we were talking with him about how people often see him and want to help him. And it's just ironic because there's instances where he just doesn't need the help. And what they do, he can do just fine himself. But a lot of people take, what they see of, the person with the disability and jump to the conclusion like, oh, I need to help them. Even though the example he gave us was really funny. He told
Hmm.
us how someone was like trying to help him open a soda can with the pop top,
Hmm.
and they did it with just one hand. Like, and he's like, oh, well, I could have done that.
Oh,
Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
flawed.
yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, that's true. Um, uh, I do try to, on that note, I do try to do everything I can as myself. But like I said, when someone else notices and they want to help out, I think it's important to be as grateful as possible because that means they're thinking about, our struggles and what we go through. And because it's important to that keep in mind, even though they don't have the same mindset as we do, right? I guess, the ableist society, but it's okay to acknowledge that we have a disability and that sometimes we need help, and it's okay to accept help. Um, on that note, I think I'm just stuck up right now. I'm stuck up right on all this. Sorry, not stuck up. I'm stuck on my doctorate work that I don't have as much time to do other things that I want to do. But I think that's another thing as a person with disability that I want to do is yeah, try to integrate myself more, or try to do more things out in the community and stuff like that. Like this, like what I'm doing right now with you guys, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate this opportunity. Um, I think it's awesome, and it's something more that I should do too, because I think it's good. But it's not nothing is in vain, because even my doctor work is about disabilities. So my
Okay.
my my dissertation is about the resilience of people, Israelis with disabilities in the face of terrorism. So how do they cope with a terrorist attack or with war? What do they do
Oh,
about getting in a bunker or things like that? So it'll be interviews. So yeah,
that's so cool.
Mhm.
yeah,
I will have to follow up with you about that for the program that I work on. That
of course,
would love
yeah.
to interview you regarding all that stuff. Yeah.
No, yeah, you're welcome to. Be awesome.
Okay, so on the flip side of that coin of misconceptions, what do you think are some misconceptions people may have about being a counselor?
Um,
Like
hmm.
like more specifically, like what do you do and what do you think people think you do maybe?
Well, I know in my field that I do compared to what I worked at before, I think people don't seek us out. They
Hmm.
my part of my job, I have to tell others, hey, you can come talk to me. I'm a counselor available here. And that help, it's supposed to, help others know about us, people who can provide services to, because people don't really like to seek us out, right? People really don't seek help unless they are really told to get help. And
Right.
I think the misconception is that they need to have a serious problem to go see a counselor. Right? And my job, I am a licensed counselor. We fall under the umbrella of psychotherapists. So counselors, licensed counselors, licensed marriage and family therapists, licensed clinical social workers, and psychologists, clinical psychologists, all fall under the umbrella of psychotherapists. So that's what I am, a psychotherapist. And but in my job, I'm supposed to call myself a counselor. So I call myself a counselor, but it helps. It's supposed to reduce some of the stigma of reaching out for help. And yeah, that's the biggest misconception, is that people think that they need to have this serious problem to come seek help. And no, I mean, like, people can just come talk to us, so whatever they need, and things like that. Now that's different if I work in the private sector, which I can. That's the cool thing about my job. I can work at my job that I have right now. Now I can also see clients privately, as long as they're not the same clients that I see in my other job. So I can work, telehealth, or for another private clinic somewhere. So yeah.
That's cool. And I would think just seeing a counselor and talking to them is an act of kind of preventative medicine in and of itself, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
Yes.
like you said,
Yeah.
people don't think they need to come unless they have
Yeah.
this major issue.
Actually,
Hmm.
I had lunch with somebody that works in counseling like a couple weeks back, and we were talking about the field and whatnot. I don't work in it, but he was just expressing to me his experiences and whatnot. And one thing that came up was this very topic, where the importance of community counseling and all these things, because he said like people that come for the door are kind of like the thing that most people say is like, oh, I should have come to you sooner.
Hmm.
Like I should have been
Hmm.
here like 5 years sooner.
Yeah.
Like, and like
Yeah.
they almost like they wait for it to just kind of like get worse and worse and worse. And he said it might be attributed to just the healthcare system in America. We don't really like care all that much about preventative care. We just kind of like
Yeah.
give temporary solutions, and people just like wait until it gets worse, until they actually need to go to the doctor. And
Hmm.
people kind of treat mental health in a similar way, not knowing that they have all these burdens or these issues,
Yeah.
until it like builds up and it's just like, oh, that's it. I'm about to like, it's over. And like almost like therapy or counseling is almost like a plan Z.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
like, it's wild. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's just like, well, it made me realize like how important mental health and just any form of public counseling, any form of private counseling, just anything, and like may like extending your hand out into the community, making people feel comfortable that they can come in, that they can seek that help, that they can start at any time is insanely important.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to get the message out there because I don't want people. I'd love for people to see this episode and be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna
I'm
go
gonna
try
go.
it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like
Hmm.
I'm happy for that.
Yeah, I also think there's a gender misconception, right? I think women seek out counseling more than men do. For the same reason, I think their brains probably wired differently, and that they have an easier time to open up about their emotions and whatnot. And guys don't have as much ease in doing the same thing. They don't
Yeah.
want to open up because it makes them, feel they don't want to be vulnerable, right? They want to show that
Yeah.
vulnerability because that's not part of masculinity, right? Being vulnerable is not masculine. But that's why I think there's a gender disproportion of who seeks help, who needs help, right? I think men will need more help than what they think they need help. They just don't recognize that or have a hard time reaching that help until, like you said, until like it's already like you're at the brink of destruction here.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. In communication, we study a lot of gender differences in communication, how we communicate, how we perceive communication, and uh, studies or the science shows that women tend to have an easier time communicating for the sake of communication, just talking. But men, for some reason, uh, have to be engaged in a task of some type
Mm.
in order to foster a communicative environment. And that's why I think it's something like uh, men on a sports team or a collaborative kind of team tend
Oh,
to
I
have
see.
much better communication, more precise communication. They have more vulnerability um, in those instances, which is,
Hmm.
again, just really interesting. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that sounds pretty about sure. Right.
Yeah.
Was there a gender uh a major gender difference in like who the counselors are? Is it more swayed towards, are there more female counselors
Yeah.
than like okay.
Yeah, that's also probably a misconception of like, oh, he's a male therapist or male counselor. Like, oh, what, who is he? How is he? But that also shows my value, right? Because I mean, I think it's like 9 out of 10
Yeah.
are women and only 1 out of 10 are men. But
Yeah.
we're very valuable men as counselors, as therapists. We're very valuable.
I was ranting to Dom about this like weeks ago. I don't know if you remember, but I was explaining to Dom where just more positive male figures in societies. I'm not talking like the sports players, the famous wealthy people, but just like regular everyday down to earth like good people that can like
Hmm.
share and inspire just like those positive masculine traits and like show people like oh you don't have to be this closed off weird whatever thing that
Hmm.
society thinks you should be.
That like
Hmm.
Andrew Tate toxic masculinity. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I told Dominic, it's just, like my existence is a form, well, yours too. Both of our existences is like a form of advocacy.
Hmm.
Because when I'm talking to my family, when I'm talking to my younger cousins and I'm expressing or like calling out these like negative traits, I'm like, oh no, dude, that hurts people's feelings. And I explain it to them. It's just like, oh, okay. It's like, and like things like that.
Yeah.
Because like hearing it coming from my mouth, like personally to another person, like is a lot more impactful than like hearing it from like some like random person on the internet.
Yeah. Definitely.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, it may also be, I mean, also may go back to like, our primitive mind, back in humans were the primitive era about, hunting and gathering and women being nurturers, right? Women stay at home and take care of kids and, maybe mingle with other females of the tribe, whereas men would go hunt, and some of them as teams, some of them by themselves. And, like you said, they're more about solving problems of, at the hand, and women are more about communicating right there with each other. So it probably goes back to that as well. So it's kind of basically wired into our, our genetics and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that stuff is cool.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's, that's wild.
Before we get caught up into a whole anthropological discussion, uh,
sure.
so are there any challenges that kind of come up for you regarding your cerebral palsy in your line of work? Like, is there any barriers that you face on a daily basis?
Um, still some structural, things that are amiss, right? Some things are too high. Some things
Hmm.
there might be a ramp one way, but then at the end of that sidewalk there's no ramp, so I have to go back and retreat and go back
Oh,
another way.
yes.
Goes
Yeah.
like
I
that.
know.
That's
Oh yeah.
fun. That's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
it's so fun backtracking like half a mile just to get up the sidewalk.
Dude, yeah. Well, I've
Yeah,
done it once with you. I'm like, all right, like, it's great. The
yeah.
infamous, like, you weren't expecting a set of stairs there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, exactly. Or what's cooler at work at there was a push button put for the outside door, one of the outside doors. So that's pretty cool. They that when this they knew I was going to be coming on board. They knew that I was in a wheelchair, so they worked right away to get that button
That's cool.
placed. Yeah, so that's cool. That's very helpful to me. Just to press a button, no, automatic doors open. Now they need to work on the other side. There's another side of the door that doesn't have one yet. So I try to go on the side with the button, but it just depends what I'm doing or if I'm carrying anything. Luckily, like for example, the bathroom door I work at is very light. I don't need help to open that door. It's very light. So it's awesome. They asked if you want a button there. I'm like, no, because if you put a button in that door, then it's gonna have to wait till it closes. I don't want to wait till it closes. Like I can close it myself very easily.
Yeah.
So it's like no issue like that. So I mean, obviously that's my disability, and I'm speaking out of my needs. So I don't know if other people would want a button, but for me that works. I don't need a button there for that.
Yeah.
Um, there
I've
is a
always
lift.
found.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
There's a lift, so there's not an elevator, but there's a lift where I work at. So it's pretty cool. One of those like restaurant lifts and like that. So
Oh yeah.
so there's because there's
Oh
two
yeah.
floors. There's two floors where I work at, and luckily it works, and it's pretty cool. It's to ride in that, but I don't need to use that every day because my office is on the first floor.
Okay.
Okay.
That's handy.
You
That
know.
Hmm.
sounds like they've done a pretty good job of accommodating.
Yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
good. Yeah.
Like I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
I was very
often
happy
hear
when they
about
did that.
that.
And
Yeah, that's good.
most of the time, I can do the work that I need to do without much assistance. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Um, do you think your presence as a counselor with cerebral palsy impacts your colleagues and patients?
You know what? It's interesting you mentioned my disability because most people probably don't even know what disability I have. They just know I'm in a wheelchair and they don't
Hmm.
know what exactly I need. People, I think, when they see me, they don't think I have cerebral palsy. They think I had an accident or something,
Like a
you know,
spinal cord injury.
spinal
Yeah.
cord injury. Yeah, they don't think I had a cerebral palsy. So it isn't until I engage in conversation with somebody or they ask or whatever, that's when they tell me my disability. When they specifically want to know what disability I have. But like for most people I even interact with, I would say even most people that I work with, they don't even know I have cerebral palsy.
Hmm.
So I don't know how much if I should be an advocate about that. Maybe I should, but it's like I don't know. I wouldn't say it's out of sight, out of mind because obviously I'm in a wheelchair, so I can't hide the fact I have a disability, or I
Yeah.
don't think I need to or want to. But at the same time, like I'm not here CP, CP, CP,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But people do have misconceptions and preconceptions about CP, right?
Right.
They have this certain thing about what's in their mind, what the person with CP has, but there's so much variation in CP, that people with me and other friends that I have, they don't have the same condition that I do. They don't have the same, symptoms that I have and stuff. So it does vary. And I think when I do talk about disabilities, I think that's one thing I try to point out is like, our needs can vary from person to person, even though we have the same disability.
Yeah. Well, my understanding too is, I have a friend with cerebral palsy, and so I have like a basic understanding of it. Is one of the things is there's several different types, right? And people, like you said, it just kind of varies. So
Hmm.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, as we get ready to close out here, let's kind of circle back onto school
Yeah.
because you went through a lot of school per my per my dubious research into your
Yeah.
LinkedIn account. Um, what?
And
mm,
I was quite impressed as well. I'm like, this is cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because I was talking to Dominic where I've enjoyed my time at Hancock, but when I talk to other people or people that go to like Santa Barbara Community College, other people like people kind of underestimate Santa Maria and Hancock, and people have like some like weird negative misconceptions about it.
I did before I went there.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think it's really cool to be talking to someone that went from like Hancock that did it and then straight to Berkeley, and I'm like, yo, that's pretty sick,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
Hmm.
I said it before too. Like,
And
Hmm.
it's like in a way kind of like, and like people take it interpret it differently, but like kind of like motivational in a
mhm.
sense, where because like always hear like negative things about Hancock and like whatever, but like here I am like, oh, Berkeley, that's cool, and it kind of breaks a lot of those misconceptions. I'm
Yeah,
like, okay.
Yeah.
I
Well,
I started at UCLA out of high school, and then I had
hmm
that whole nursing problem where I didn't have enough nursing, had to move back home, and I was all disappointed, and I was like, oh, fine,
Oh,
I guess I'll go to Hancock. This is
uh-huh.
lame, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Hancock's so cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, great. I mean, I'm sorry that I had to go through that. That is upsetting, but yeah, at least you were able to find your place in Hancock. And
Hmm.
I think yeah, my story's a little unique. I was started going to Hancock when I was a sophomore in high school, but
Okay.
that's because I started working out at home when I was see this goes way back when I was in eighth grade, no seventh grade. Uh, because I had a sixth grade slump. I think most boys do in sixth grade, but my slump was because my teacher. He was really nice, he's a really good teacher, but he just was not very, he was not familiar or very cognizant of disabilities and my place as a student with a disability in his class. And I went through some tough times in that classroom as a sixth grader. I was left alone one time in my stander. I don't know what you call it. I call my stander, and I would do
Yeah.
stand in school, and so he left me alone in my stander, waiting for the nurse while him and the rest of the class went outside. I didn't know for what, and had to wait till the nurse comes. So I was panicking, like, what happens? What if there's an earthquake, right? What's the nurse going? I'm just here by
Yeah.
stuck by myself, things like that. So that was a tough time. And then seventh grade came, and then my PE teacher, he kind of got me out of that. Oh, another thing, my sixth grade teacher, he wouldn't involve me in PE very much. He would
Mm,
sometimes just have me on the side.
that sucks.
They play volleyball. I would just be like there watching.
That's
So
so lame.
yeah, like I say, he's a good teacher. I don't hold it against him. He was a good teacher. He was fun too, but I think I was left out in many situations where he could have probably involved me more. Anyways, let's go to the future. Seventh grade, my PE teacher. Actually, back in sixth grade, I met this guy. My PE teacher for a special like event. He did a tumbling exercise for PE for our sixth grade class, and so
Yeah.
he had me involved too. He had me involved. He said, "No, don't stand there. Here, you try this, try that." So that's the beginning of like, oh wow, I can do stuff. And yeah, in seventh grade, the same thing. He was my seventh grade PE teacher. He would, while the kids would go run laps, he had me on a hand bike, do a hand bike for until the time that they were done, and he'd have me involved as much as he could for whatever activities we did. So yeah, that was very helping out my self esteem and whatnot, and that helped me got my own track to do exercise on my own, and that was awesome. And we have a little bench here at my parents' house that you started using that, and then ninth grade came and as many high schoolers, I fell off the rail. Like, where am I? I'm lost. Ninth grade, freshman. I went to the same school, K through 8. So I knew the same people from K through 8 in 9 years. So
Yeah.
boom, high school hits and it's a total shock.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to work out at the gym and at Samurai High, and uh, it was not very well equipped. It's pretty tight, pretty small. And my brother at the time was taking class at Hancock, and he had to take a test because I don't know why by himself. And I went with him, and it was at the gym, and I was walking, exploring, and I saw a person in a wheelchair working out in the gym. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can work out here. What can I do to work out here? So I asked. I figured out I need permission from my school. I need permission from the college. I need permission from my parents to go take a class, and that's what I started to do. I started taking a gym class, like no credit, it was like a community class or something, or half credit,
Okay.
a half credit community class for Hancock, and I would do that like every semester. I would go work out there. I would also swim there. So so I kind of transitioned from like high school to college in a way, sort of.
Yeah.
I'd be working out with the college athletes instead of the high school athletes, right?
That's so
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was cool. And then our senior year came. I was already, and by the time I hit sophomore year, I did a lot of school advancement because I want to go to college. And when freshman year, I didn't have the college prep counselor. I had just the regular counselor who wanted to get kids to graduate or whatever. So I know they switched me counselors when once they figured out that I wanted to go to college. And so I did like AP classes, but I took classes at Hancock when I could. I was involved in like some high school activities like MESA and CSF, MESA Mathematics and Engineering Science Achievement, and California Scholarship Federation, and ASB, Associate Student Body.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then I took more classes my senior year, and then like by the time I graduated high school, I had like a year's worth of credit from Hancock, or college credit.
that's so cool.
So that's why when I went to Hancock that year, I only had to stay a year because I had all that credit.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a transition.
Okay, so
Okay.
so you go from K through 8 to high school, and then you go to Hancock, and another big transition, I would
It's
imagine.
like UC Berkeley.
Going from Hancock to
Yeah,
Berkeley, what was that
that is
transition like?
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It was wild, yeah, because it was far away from home, and I applied to the Disabled Students Residence Program, so I had people help me out the first, was it the first year? I think it was the first year, the first few months. I can't remember if it was the first whole entire year. So they had people help me out in the mornings and the evenings, but then I had to get like my own workers through the in-home support services. I believe
Mhm.
I was there. Yeah, I was that a client of that. Yeah. So I had people they applied, all the other college kids, college guys applied. And so then like I got to get to know those guys. I had, besides the program helped me out for about a year or so, with the workers. Then I had my own friends help me out through that. And, yeah, it wasn't that bad in terms of, the transition. My parents would go see me every month or something, or every couple of weeks, pretty often, you know, I would say I maybe should respect the guy. I don't want to say his name, but like the guy who was there, Disabled Students Residence Program, he was awful. He was awful because yeah, I had a bad experience. I had a bad experience because the first like month I was there, he pulled me into his office and he like did not let me talk. And he said, "You're alone now. You're gonna behave this way and blah blah blah." I'm like kind of like acting as if my parent, but like
What the heck?
yeah. Oh yeah, it was horrible. And I reported him to the disabled students office, and maybe I should have done more, but I don't know. I didn't have any like, confrontation with that man again, but that was awful on his part, and he made me feel horrible. I couldn't.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
I was
crazy.
sitting there in his office like a dog with a tail between his legs. Nothing was like just huddling and just be quiet because he was lecturing me the whole 45 minutes.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was wild. That was the only like really bad experience of being in college that I had. But other than that, I think the whole program was great. Like I said, they had
And
people help me out, and I'm fairly easy in terms of the help I needed, at least back then. Um, um, so yeah, it was pretty good experience. And I was at Berkeley for, how long was I there? A year and a half. Officially, my degree says 2004 because I had to go back and take a test in the January. But I did walk in December of 2003.
that's cool.
Okay, 2003. Okay, I was about to ask when that like
I should have put the timeline, the dates on
yeah,
the
because it's
outline.
like disability counselor fiasco, I feel like that would have not flown like today.
Oh, I would hope not.
Yeah, it's just like so I was gonna ask like when that was because I was like, oh gosh.
Well, it wouldn't have flown back then either because that was serious. I mean, like it's like
Yeah, that was
nobody deserves to be treated like that. Like
Yeah.
no.
that's it's we find this I think on a lot of I think services and because he's the type of person who takes advantage of his position to use power over people, right? He's there to
Yeah.
work for disabled students, but yet does this to mentally hurt a disabled person. So
Yeah.
and
no.
he was we kind of I don't want to call him ableist, but yes, he's a norm bodied person. So yeah.
So, sounds pretty ableist to me. Yeah.
Well, that's worse
Yeah.
than ableist. Like not just like that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I hate to call him that because most able-bodied persons will not do
Yeah.
that, right? Will not treat us that way, even if they don't
Yeah.
know anything about what it's like to be disability. Yet he does. He did do that awful thing because he took
Yeah, that's
advantage of his position.
just straight up abusive.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he
Wow.
abuses his power. But my whole experience in college, undergraduate, was great. It was great. Like I said, I had friends who helped me out, who worked as my workers. I had three guys. Two of them I became really good friends with. The other guy who was like the last semester I was there, so I didn't get to really form a bond with him.
Mhm.
I still have contact with one of the guys. The other guy, I didn't communicate with him after college, but my other guy, he would do tourism. He would drive through the town where I'm from, and whenever he would come drive through town with his bus of tourists, and I'd meet him up to dinner or whatnot or a drink.
Oh, that's cool. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty good friends with my IHSS worker as well.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Cough, cough, wink,
I
wink.
wonder who that is.
Oh, you?
But, yeah, yeah. Well,
Cool.
it's just
That's
like,
cool.
well, I think it's really cool and like, yeah, shout out to your friends. That's crazy because like not only doing an undergraduate program and all that, but just like be willing to like step up and like go through like the enrollment process through the government and all that, and like your prints and everything to give you the work that you needed, and then.
Hmm.
And I tell Dom all the time, like helping someone with a disability is extremely humbling and it like shits you up pretty quickly. It's just like, oh wow, like okay. Because you're in
Yeah.
charge of like someone else's well-being, their hygiene, and like how you help them and how you treat them and your attitude is going to affect the person you're taking care of. Like
Yeah,
it's gonna greatly impact their day. And like just having
Hmm.
that like it's just like there's like it requires quite a high level of respect. And it's
Yeah.
yeah. And I feel
Yeah.
like most people could benefit from it. Just like, like check it out, Like,
Yeah. Both, yeah, both of, like I said, I had three, besides the workers from the program. After that, I had three workers, and like I said, the two of them that I bonded the most with, I'm like, they would eat breakfast with me. They didn't have to, but they could. So they did. Some of them did, like the guy who helped me out in the morning and stuff, and it's really cool. Yeah, it is a humbling experience. They were both really good guys. So I mean, I think for you to do that to begin with, you already should have some good intentions in your heart. So like I said, I
Yeah.
think whatever they learned, it just made them better people. But they were already good guys to begin with.
Yeah, that's good. And then and this is pretty so bachelor in science and social welfare, and then to criminology, law, and society. So what was the switch there?
Oh, well, because I learned early on that you don't have to graduate in the realm that you want to later pursue. I chose a social welfare degree because I wanted to transfer out of Hancock as soon as possible. So that's another thing I could have waited. I could have waited another semester, and because to transfer into psychology, I had to take like two or three more classes. To transfer to sociology, I had to take two or three more classes. But to transfer to social welfare, I already had everything. I had my basic psychology class, my basic sociology class, and basic stats. So I had all that so I could transfer in a year. So that's why I chose that. Not necessarily because I wanted the best out of that route, but I said, well, that's the fastest route that I can get out to graduate from college, and I can pursue something else that I want later on.
gotcha.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So it was all right. It was not like, hey, this whole best program I could have chosen. Like I said, maybe could have waited to transfer with the other psychology or sociology degree. But like I said, I already had my plan that I want to go for another degree, and I don't have to have the same degree to get double
Yeah.
bachelor's and master's in psychology, whatever. So I could move around. There's a lot of movability in terms of what we could study, especially the social sciences.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Like, because I know plenty of people that did that went to law school and their bachelor's degree isn't necessarily in law or anything. It's
Yeah.
just like either it's like communications or like nursing or whatever, then they just pivot to like law. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like for like a master's degree.
And so then did you physically move to Virginia for Regent?
Yes, yes, yes. So UC Irvine, it was all online except the first like intro course. Intro course was like a week long. So
Uh-huh.
my mom went with me. I stayed in Irvine for a week, or I can't remember if it was like a week or more longer, but it was like I think it was a week.
Oh,
And then everything else was online. Everything was online, and
gotcha.
yeah, so I did that from home. And Virginia, yeah, that was the next biggest thing is moving to Virginia and living over there, and that was cool too. And I actually I had to pay my workers over there. I did not apply for HSS in Virginia, so I had my way to pay them. And I paid for my workers. Oh wait, I did have Medi-Cal there, but that was the second and third year. So the first year I did pay for my the first year I paid for my workers. So but Virginia, yeah, that was a cool time too. I had a blast. We had fall break and spring break, and I would go every time I went down to Florida.
Nice.
Except one time I went to Charleston, South Carolina. And then the last vacation I had, I didn't go anywhere because I had to save money because for my graduation, I was going to pay for my family to have dinner and all that stuff. But yeah, I had fun. I had a good time in Virginia.
That's so
Then I'm
cool.
assuming Chicago University PhD online.
Yes,
Okay.
I had to go over there for residency though. But I've done both residencies, and that's all I need to go over there for. And then if I want to graduate on stage, I mean, I can go there. But they also have other campuses. So like if I don't make the graduation for Chicago, I can graduate in Washington D.C. or L.A. So we'll see.
That's so cool.
Cool. Best of luck with
Anything
that.
else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
No,
you. Thank you.
I
You
think
have another question? You
my
can ask me another one. You can ask me one more.
yeah, no, my last little send-off question. I always kind of like to ask our guests if they have any advice for those looking to get into their field. So do you have any advice for those with disabilities looking to get into healthcare or social welfare, to, go through what you have gone through schooling and
Um,
whatnot?
I I think that the I mean I'm not sure specifically that, but I just say just I think what helped me out too and when I was younger is in my high school I went to go see my career counselor. So I
Hmm.
did like career interest inventories, and I would figure out that I'd be good like in this sector, right? And like and helping others. So that's how I found out like, oh, I'd be a good counselor, I'd be a good, person in the clergy, I'd be a good, teacher, some, those kind of things. So I think that's what anybody can do, whether disabled or not, is to like figure out, go talk to a career counselor, or whether it be in high school or college, take a career interest class, right? Even though I did that in high school, even when I was in college, I took a career interest class, and we did all
Right.
some more career inventories, and that helped me out to like just repeat like and to reinforce what I should study. So.
Cool.
I think
That's so cool.
I recommend that, and just go for it. I mean, yeah, I think the biggest message I think that we can give out is like have more people with disabilities, in the workforce, because have the best people that can represent us is ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
then
agree.
yeah, and then like because we have different perspectives, a better, more accurate perspective of what a person with disability goes through, because a person without disability, I mean, they can try their best, but they don't have the same experience that we have experiences and conditions that
Yeah.
we go
They're
through.
not gonna understand the backtracking half a mile to get up the sidewalk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like they don't think
Yeah,
about
it's
that,
fair.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
don't think about that where they can just walk down the curb, but no, we can't just go down the curb. No, most of us can't.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well,
So.
thank you so much, Josue. We
Mhm.
appreciate you so much and your time. And to our friends listening, if you liked what we had to say today, please leave us that rating. A nice little review, perhaps, on Apple Podcasts if you're so inclined. Be sure to share with your friends and your family. If you're not already, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at The Disability Myth, all one word. And with all that being said, peace and love, and may the force be with you.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Perfect. All right.
Actually, I was born on May the 4th be with you.
No way.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, okay, I'm leaving that part in for the outro. Perfect.